Wait, so what's your DJ name? Just so I know.
Oh, so it's funny, it's now because I'm grown and like, I'm just like, okay, nobody knows who that is anymore. I think I just said it on DJ Mataji, which I was always trying to make it like this other thing. Because
Oh,
I tell you,
yeah.
when I started DJing and I was like, people knew me as a singer, songwriter, it literally was so confusing. The reason I came up with a DJ name at that time that was not my name is because people would show up to my DJ gigs thinking I was going to sing and show up to my singing gigs. So I was like, I got to have a separate DJ name. I got to, So at the time, it's funny you bring this up because this has been coming up a lot. But one of my favorite books, which I was reading right before I started to DJ, was from Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Love in the Time of Cholera, or Cholera.
Uh-huh.
And I just fell in love with this book. He's one of my favorite artists. And I really identified at the time with its main heroine. Her name was Fermina Daza. And so much that right before I turned 30, I got like, I have to show you. Because people know me for years and don't see this because it's real incognito, but it's my only tattoo, and it says Daza.
Mm-hmm.
Because I basically changed my name to Fermina D as my DJ name. Because this was back in the MySpace days, so I actually could like on my page show like references to what I was, where I got the inspiration from. And I was also doing a lot of this is another little secret people don't know about me, but I also do like photography and like video stuff. I don't usually bring it up because it's just too much. But for years I shot Polaroid photographs, and I did a lot of like urban, just like everything, but just like I was just on the street. Like I didn't have a digital camera or nothing, or any kind of camera. It was just Polaroids. And I would do exhibitions like that too, when I would be invited to. And so as my visual name on MySpace, to keep it more separate, I was known as Daza. Okay. So but then there came to a point in my life where I was like, I can't have like 4 identities. I had like, I'm gonna name this, name for that. I think that might be a Gemini thing. I don't know, but I'm just like, everything is like, woo, sorry. Yeah. And so now I've been doing some DJing on and off the last couple of years. I was like, okay, I have to like put something on the flyer. And so I was like, you know what, it's just gonna be Mataji. And I think it's not even like DJ Mataji. I think I was like, I'm just gonna be Mataji. Right. It's hard coming up with a name. Not hard, but like you have to be like strategic with what you're, especially now. Right. It's kind of like it's forever. Like right. Now it's everywhere on all these platforms. And like I messed around when I was younger trying to like change my stage name. I was still trying to figure out my my stage name as a singer-songwriter, and I messed around like playing with the name. And then I went down to Mexico to do this thing. By the time I got to Mexico, I just didn't like the name anymore, but it was on flyers everywhere. We shot some like cool like video with like we got a video like that was like kind of my time down there and all this, and they had this famous like, not famous but well-known like DJ in Mexico like narrated it, and that's the name that's on there. And so I couldn't even like really use at least that part of it like when I was promoting myself in the future, because you want to hear the name, it's so embarrassing. Yeah, I was living in New York at the time, and I was always trying out different names, and it was Mataji Heritage and ancestor shit, I was like, Mataji Heritage. And then I got to Mexico, and I was like, that is a stupid name. And it was like on flyers, the posters. And but that's when I learned, it's like, you got to be really clear. I think I was about 26 or 27 at the time. I was like, you got to be really clear, And so I actually did rebrand my name in the last few years to Mataji Booker Graham. People know me as Mataji Booker, but Graham actually is my mother's maiden name. And it's the first time as an artist that I feel like this is my artist name. This is the name, my stage name, my professional name. Right. It was a way of merging two worlds, because it's a crazy story. And of course, I have a lot of stories to write or tell about this. But my mother's side of the family, who for instance, Cincinnati, it's the African-American side of my family. There's literally, it's funny, there's only one living relative or, older. I have one aunt left on that side of the family. Wow. And I have some cousins that are my generation, but from that family. And she lives in Jacksonville, Florida, and you remind me of her. She's the aunt that I told you remind me of, my Aunt Etta. When I first met you, I was like, oh my God, like something about like talk, there's certain mannerisms, like, oh my God, you remind me of Etta. So that was something also, you don't know this, that made me feel really like connected to you. Like, okay. And so that being said, the Graham women, there's just the whole family is gone for, I will say it's, I think the root of it is, like I found out my grandfather was a very violent alcoholic. I didn't know that so much. And it's just crazy because everyone in that family like died kind of young, either from like drug overdose or something mental health, cancer, but it was like that mental health stuff. My Aunt Etta was the only one in that family who grew up with another relative. She thrived in her life. So it's amazing like to see. And so that being said, though, these amazing women who didn't have the opportunity to live, it was also a way of me kind of bringing them with me on my journey and like honoring them and like keeping this name alive in my way. And but also kind of like separating from Mataji Booker, who was a singer. But I was like, I need to rebrand and like, and I waited like a year before I officially changed it with SAG, because I actually like asked around, I sat with it, and everyone was like, yeah, that feels good. I was like, it's long, but it feels good, It feels like I merged the two parts of like my life, like my past, my future. Like, I don't know. It's interesting. So that is why it finally stuck. And that one I'm like, that is my name. Yeah, it feels good. And I was like, if it's too long, I don't even care. That's also not giving any fucks anymore. No. But it feels good to me. And and it's funny how, again, making a choice, like since I like stepped into that, it's the way that it's just been so much easier to create. It's like, okay, now it's like you're putting on the cloaks. Like now it's amazing how that little thing works, the choice. Yeah. Just owning it.
Absolutely. Does Mataji have a meaning? Does your name have a
meaning? That is a little, I'm so proud of myself because I've got, I got a lot of Gemini. So like, I like to, when I tell a story, let me give you that backstory. So I've gotten better at like truncating, so this particular story, which used to be a lot longer, I finally cut it down like to cliff note. But yeah, so basically Mataji is pronounced Mataji. It's a Hindu term from India. It's not a name that you give people because it legit means like reverend mother, or like, the more that I've found, because I dabble a lot in Eastern like religion, spirituality, it's actually like, it's really not a name you give people, because it's almost like, I've been told recently, it's like Mother Mary almost, right? It's like, and also Matajis are types of goddesses. There's like thousands of them apparently in India. And then also Mataji is also mother, just straight up mother. Like I've met people in my life that said they grew up in India calling their mother Mataji. But it's also like senora, or saying ma'am. It's a respectful way to address an older woman. So it's like a very mothery thing, which of course me being a Cancer, and it's just all like, but my mother found the name in a book that is widely known, Autobiography of a Yogi, which I still haven't read, but that actually has come into my orbit recently, and it might be time to read it, because one of my favorite sayings is, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And you know how it is when you'll try to read a book for decades, and then finally one day you're like, oh, and you're just like in it. So I'm gonna give that book another try soon, because I feel like it might be time. But there's a story in that book about Mataji and her brother Babaji, and that's where my mother from Cincinnati was reading that book. And she was like, oh, I hear her voice. She's like, oh, Mataji, that's nice. Mataji, I like that. And so she just like totally covertly anglicized this name and like gave me Mataji. And I became Mataji. And I found out when I was 20 years old, working at one of my first jobs at Starbucks, I had a manager who was from India, and he's like, oh, you know what this means? And he broke it down to me. And since then, I'm always finding out new, especially since I started Lyft driving, and I get like, Indian riders, and I learned so much more about this, not name, but this, I guess, whatever term or, word. It's interesting. Yeah. But of course, growing up, I just wanted to be, Mary Jane Sue, or, like Erica. Yeah. And now I love my name. But yeah, thanks for asking. It's funny. It's an interesting story.
Learning that now, I'm thinking, oh, she's a reverent mother of creativity. She's a reverent mother of arts. So that's why there are so many outlets that you do. Because there's one thing when people just are not focused and they do a bunch of things trying to find their thing, but there's a difference when people are really good at different things and can do them well. And so that's who you are. So there's no need for you to be embarrassed when you say, oh, I do this thing. People are like, what? Yeah, I do that too. Yes.
Yeah, I'm still working on that, but for the most part, I'm stepping into that. I'm stepping into that.
Mataji.
Tiwana.
Thank you.
Most of them. Yes. Thank you for having me.
If you were inspired by anything said here, why don't you take a moment, subscribe. We'll see you next time.